When Travis Kelce opened his locker in the Kansas City Chiefs' victorious Super Bowl locker room on February 9, 2025, he expected the usual: his phone, his neatly folded street clothes, maybe a few congratulatory messages from his family. What he didn't expect was a handwritten note from Taylor Swift, a note that would transform the greatest night of his professional life into one of the most nerve-wracking moments of his personal one. The confetti from the field was still clinging to his uniform as he looked down at the cream-colored envelope with his name written in Taylor's elegant handwriting. For a moment he just stared at it, his heart skipping. Taylor never left notes. She was a texter, a caller, the queen of sending ridiculous memes during team meetings, but a letter, that wasn't her, which only made the gesture feel heavier, almost ominous. Around him, chaos reigned. Reporters swarmed, music pounded, champagne sprayed. Jason Kelce was leading an off-key rendition of We Are the Champions, wearing nothing but a towel. Patrick Mahomes was being tackled by cameras. And yet, for Travis, everything blurred into background noise. The cheers faded. The laughter became distant, as if someone had pressed mute on the world. He picked up the note with shaking hands. His fingers were trembling, not from post-game adrenaline but from something else entirely. He tore the envelope open carefully, almost reverently, and unfolded the single sheet of paper inside. Taylor's familiar handwriting covered it, looping and confident. "Travis, if you're reading this, you won. Congratulations, baby. I'm so proud of you. But there's something I need to tell you. I've been waiting for tonight, because I needed you to win first. I needed tonight to be perfect before I told you the truth. Meet me in the hallway outside the family suites. Section 142. Don't celebrate too long. This can't wait. If you lost tonight, I would have kept this secret forever. But you won. So now I have to be brave enough to tell you. Everything changes tonight." Travis read it once, then again, and again. Each time, the words felt heavier. What truth? What secret? Why did it matter whether he won or lost? And what did she mean by everything changes tonight? Kelce's team photo. Someone shouted, but Travis barely heard them. His mind was already spinning. He grabbed his phone and sweatpants, brushed past Patrick, who called out, "Where you going, bro?" "I just need 5 minutes," Travis muttered. He didn't even wait for an answer. He bolted down the hall, through the noise, through the celebration, through everything that should have mattered on the greatest night of his career. The hallway outside the family suites was silent, a stark contrast to the chaos behind him. His cleats clicked softly against the tile floor. Section 142. No one was there. He tried calling her voicemail. He texted, "I'm here, where are you?" 10 long minutes passed before his phone buzzed. "Can't get past security. Tell them it's okay." Travis sprinted to the nearest guard. "My girlfriend Taylor Swift, she's in suite 142 please. Let her through." 2 minutes later she appeared, hair in a messy ponytail, wearing his jersey, eyes red and glistening. She looked both beautiful and terrified. "Hey," Travis said gently, stepping closer. "What's going on? You're scaring me." Taylor looked up at him, at the man who had just won the Super Bowl, standing there in half a uniform, still drenched in Gatorade, looking at her like she was the only thing that mattered in the world. Her throat tightened. "Can we go somewhere private?" she whispered. Travis led her to a small empty conference room he'd seen earlier. He shut the door, and suddenly, the two of them were wrapped in silence. The cheers and music outside became a faint hum. He turned to face her, and the look on her face made his chest ache. "Taylor," he said softly, "you're killing me here. What's going on?" She took a long, shaking breath, the kind he'd seen her take before going on stage, except now it wasn't to become Taylor Swift, the performer. It was to let that mask fall away. "I'm leaving," she said finally. "Leaving?" His brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I'm canceling the tour, postponing the album, stepping away from music." It was like a punch to his ribs. "What? Why?" "I'm tired," she said simply, and then her voice cracked. "So tired of being Taylor Swift."
Taylor's words hung heavy in the air. Her eyes shimmered with exhaustion more than tears, the kind of exhaustion that no amount of sleep or applause could fix. "I'm tired of the tours, the endless interviews, the constant scrutiny," she said, her voice trembling. "Every move I make becomes a headline. Every expression gets analyzed. I can't even breathe without wondering what narrative the world will spin from it." She sank into one of the conference chairs, her hands clutching each other tightly. "I don't remember the last time I was just me. Not the performer, not the brand, just Taylor." Travis knelt in front of her, trying to catch her eyes. "Babe, what are you saying?" She looked down at the floor. "I've been thinking about this for months. If you won tonight, I promised myself I'd tell you, because I knew you'd be happy, and I needed that. But if you lost, I was going to keep pretending everything was fine." He felt his pulse quicken. "You were going to quit your career because of a football game?" "No," she said quickly, shaking her head. "Not because of it. I already quit in my heart. I called my manager yesterday. Told her that after the last 3 shows, I'm done. No album release, no tour, no more pretending I can carry the weight of all this. Her words shattered him. "Why?" he whispered. "Because I'm losing myself," she said, and now the tears came. They ran freely, streaking the remnants of her makeup, glinting in the dim light. "I've been famous since I was 16, Travis. I've lived more of my life on camera than off it. I don't know who I am when I'm not performing. I don't know how to exist as a person who isn't constantly being watched." She looked up at him, her expression raw, desperate. "And the worst part? I know what they'll say. They'll say, I threw away my career for a man. They'll say, you made me quit music. And maybe they'll be right, because if I didn't love you so much, maybe I could still keep doing this." Her voice cracked. "But I love you so much it hurts. I can't be on tour for 6 months while you're here living your life. I can't write songs about heartbreak when the only thing breaking my heart is being away from you." Travis just stared at her, his mind spinning. It felt like his world had split into 2 paths. In one, Taylor gave it all up, her fame, her music, her identity, and they lived a quiet, normal life together. In the other, she stayed the superstar everyone adored, and they figured out how to make it work from afar. But neither of those paths felt right. Neither of them looked like her. He reached forward, gently tilting her chin up until their eyes met. "Listen to me," he said firmly, his voice steady now. "You're not quitting music." Taylor blinked, startled. "Travis, no. You're exhausted. You're scared. And you're trying to regain control of something that feels too big. But giving up who you are isn't the answer. You don't understand." "I do," he interrupted softly. 2 years ago, after we lost the Super Bowl, I thought about retiring. I was tired of the pressure, the criticism, the noise. My dad told me something I'll never forget. He said, "You don't quit when you're tired. You quit when you're done." He took her hands into his. "Taylor, you're not done. You're just tired." Her lip quivered. "I don't know how to fix that." "We fix it together," he said gently. "The tour stops in 3 weeks, right? So, you stop. You take 6 months off, real time off. No deadlines, no contracts, no pressure, just you, breathing again. The world can wait. You've been giving it music for half your life." Taylor let out a broken laugh, half relief, half disbelief. "Everyone will think I've lost it." "Who cares what everyone thinks?" Travis said, his voice rising slightly. "Why do you care more about what strangers think than what you need? Why does their opinion matter more than your happiness?" The question hit her like a wave. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then her shoulders sagged. "Because I'm scared," she admitted. "I'm scared that if I stop, people will forget me. That if I'm not constantly creating, I'll disappear. And I'm scared that if I stop being Taylor Swift, you'll realize you don't love me. Not really. That I am just boring Taylor from Pennsylvania who cries during dog food commercials and burns everything she tries to cook." Travis felt something inside him break. He stood, pulling her gently to her feet and wrapped her in his arms. She melted against him, her sobs muffled against his chest. "Listen to me very carefully," he said into her hair. "I fell in love with you because you are kind, because you care too much, because you cry during commercials and remember everyone's coffee order and write thank you notes by hand. I fell in love with Taylor, not Taylor Swift." She let out a weak, watery laugh. "Really? Really?" he murmured. "Some of my favorite moments with you are when you're just being regular Taylor. Like when you woke me up at 2 a.m. to go grocery shopping because you wanted to bake cookies but couldn't remember if we needed baking soda or baking powder, so you bought both. Or when we spent 6 hours playing board games with Jason's kids. Or when you fell asleep during a movie, drooled on my shoulder and swore you didn't." She laughed harder this time, wiping her tears. "You said you deleted that picture." "I lied," he grinned. "It's my phone background." Taylor's laughter still trembled in the air, soft and uncertain. The sound of someone rediscovering a part of herself she thought was gone. Travis smiled at her, his thumb brushing the last tear from her cheek. "My point is," he said gently, "you don't have to choose between being Taylor Swift and being happy. You just have to find balance, and I'll help you do that." She looked at him, really looked, like she was trying to memorize the sincerity in his face. "But what about us?" she asked quietly. "What about the fact that I miss you constantly? That being apart feels impossible?" Travis exhaled slowly. "Then we change that too." He hesitated for a moment, as if working up the courage to reveal something he'd been holding on to. "I've been thinking about this for a while. After this season, I'm going to talk to the Chiefs about restructuring my contract, getting more flexibility, more control over my schedule." Her eyes widened. "Travis, you can't do that because of me." "Why not?" he said, his tone calm but firm. "I'm 35 years old. I've won 3 Super Bowls. I've made my money, built my legacy. If they won't work with me, then maybe I do retire. Because, Taylor, I'm not the only one who's tired of putting my career first." She stared at him in disbelief. "But people will say—" He cut her off, smiling. "Who cares what people say? I've already been called worse." For the first time that night, she actually smiled. A real one, small but bright. "You would be terrible at being the quiet, supportive boyfriend," she teased, her voice barely above a whisper. "Exactly," he said, his grin widening. "I'd be the loudest, most embarrassing man in the audience at every award show. I'd cry during your acceptance speeches. I'd pick fights with critics on Twitter. It would be chaos." Taylor let out a laugh, full and free this time, a sound that seemed to chase away the heaviness in the room. "It would be a disaster," she said softly. "Our disaster," he corrected. That made her stop. Her eyes softened. The knot in her chest that had been twisting tighter for months finally began to loosen. "I don't want you to retire," she whispered. "I love watching you play. You look happiest on that field." "And I love watching you perform," he said. "You're alive up there. It's like watching someone touch magic." He cupped her face in his hands. "So, maybe the answer isn't that one of us gives up everything. Maybe it's that we both make smaller changes that add up to something bigger. You take breaks when you need them. I find more flexibility in my career. We make time for each other. We stop letting everyone else's expectations dictate how we live." Taylor smiled faintly. "That sounds nice," she said, though her voice carried a note of doubt. "But is it realistic?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But I'd rather try and fail than watch you give up who you are out of fear." The room went quiet again. Taylor's eyes glistened in the dim light. "Do you really think I shouldn't quit?" she asked softly. "I think," Travis said, "that you should ask yourself one question. If all the pressure disappeared, if there were no deadlines, no cameras, no expectations, would you still want to write songs?" Taylor froze, thinking, really thinking. Her mind drifted back to the nights she'd stayed up until dawn, guitar in her lap, pouring her heart into lyrics no one had heard yet, the way a melody could feel like freedom. Finally, she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "I would. I don't want to quit. I just want to change. I want to write songs because I'm inspired, not because I'm expected. I want to tour because I want to connect, not because I need to prove something. I want to make music that means something, not just feed algorithms and numbers." Travis smiled softly. "Then that's what you do. Call your manager back tomorrow and tell her you're not quitting. You're just doing things differently, and if anyone doesn't like it—" He shrugged. "Screw them. You're Taylor Swift. You make the rules." That made her laugh again, a genuine sound that filled the small room. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise," he said smugly. "You just never noticed. Probably distracted by my devastating good looks." She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. For the first time in months, her smile reached her eyes. "I love you," she whispered. He leaned forward and kissed her forehead. "I love you too. even when you leave cryptic notes in my locker that almost give me a heart attack on Super Bowl night." She winced playfully. "Sorry about that. I just needed you to win first. I needed to know you were happy before I told you all this." "Hey," Travis said seriously, his voice softening. "Your crisis is my crisis. Your happiness is my happiness. That's what love is, Tay. You don't wait for perfect timing. You tell me, and we face it together." For a while, they just stood there, holding each other in silence, their foreheads pressed together. Outside, the celebration raged on. But in that tiny room, the only sound was their breathing. Finally, Taylor whispered, "You should go back. They're probably wondering where you are." "Let them wonder," he said with a grin. "This is more important." "Travis," she said gently, "you just won the Super Bowl. Go celebrate. I'll be fine. Actually, I feel better than I have in months." He searched her eyes. "You sure?" She nodded. "I'm sure. Go be the champion you are. I'll be waiting when you're done. We can talk more later." He smiled and kissed her. Soft, certain, full of promise. "Okay, but Taylor." "Yeah?" "Thank you," he said, "for trusting me enough to tell me the truth, even in the most dramatic way possible." She laughed quietly. "I'm a songwriter. Drama is literally my job." "Fair point." They left the small conference room together, their fingers brushing, hesitant at first, then finding each other naturally. The noise of the world slowly returned, the distant roar of the locker room, the chanting of teammates, the echo of celebration that was still shaking the stadium. As they reached the hallway where they'd met minutes before, Taylor stopped and turned to him. "Hey, Travis," she said softly. He looked at her, waiting. "You were right," she whispered. "I'm not done, not with music, not with any of it. I still have a lot to say. I just forgot why I started saying it in the first place." Travis smiled, his eyes soft. "And why's that?" "Because music lets me tell the truth," she said. "And right now, I have a lot of truth to tell, especially about a football player who just won the Super Bowl and talked me off a ledge while still covered in Gatorade." He laughed, shaking his head. "That's gonna be one hell of a song." "The best one I've ever written," she promised. Travis kissed her again. A kiss full of warmth, gratitude, and relief. And then finally, reluctantly, he turned to go. "I'll see you soon," he said, flashing that grin that had first made her fall for him. She watched him disappear into the glow of victory, her heart lighter than it had been in months. 6 months later, the world would see the result of that night. When Taylor Swift announced her new album, Balanced, along with a limited 20-date world tour, the music industry erupted with speculation. Headlines blared, "Taylor Swift chooses quality over quantity." A new era of authenticity for pop's biggest star. Interviewers asked her what had changed. She smiled mysteriously and said, "I remembered who I am." Behind the scenes, those closest to her knew it wasn't just a comeback. It was a rebirth. The woman who Dee once felt trapped by her fame had learned how to make peace with it. She'd learned that she didn't have to burn herself out to shine, and whenever someone asked about the inspiration behind Balanced, she'd simply glance toward the stands at a Chiefs game, where a certain tight end was often spotted cheering louder than anyone else, wearing her merch, holding up a handmade sign that read, "I'm her biggest fan." That secret night in a quiet stadium hallway became their anchor, the moment where honesty replaced fear, where love became the reason to keep going instead of the excuse to give up. Because sometimes the most important victories don't happen on a field or on a stage. They happen in the quiet moments, when someone loves you enough to remind you of who you really are and who you still could be. And for Taylor and Travis, that night wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of a new chapter. One built not on fame or trophies, but on truth, courage, and a love strong enough to balance it all.